Customs do not change overnight.
You're the king. You could order the custom changed.
True, but I cannot force people to change the way they think. That is something they can only do for themselves.
One, two, three. We're crazy.
I ain't happy. I'm feeling glad I got sunshine in a bag. I'm useless, but not for long. The future is coming on. I ain't happy. I'm feeling glad I got sunshine in a bag. I'm useless, but not for long. The future is coming on. It's coming on. It's coming on. It's coming on. It's coming on.
I'm GA Solo. Hello. We've reached the conclusion of this 8-part series on the topic of indoctrination, and although there's always more that can be said, I hope that what has been covered, though concise, has been informative and accurate enough to be taken as a summarized guide or even gateway to further education and inquiry on the matter. At the start of this series, I made some possible hypotheses on the reception of the series among different viewers. I knew that some people would only look at others and not consider themselves as to whether or not they may be indoctrinated, because it's always easy to identify indoctrination among others, but rarely on oneself. However, I am glad and greatly encouraged to see that the majority of viewers in the course of the making of this series appear to have understood this series without misinterpretation or bias. This possibly shows that many who have watched the series value critical thinking, proven facts, rationality, and clear, unbiased observation. This does not mean that everyone should have the same opinion about everything, but that we can at least always have the door open for discourse so that we can come closer to a consensus of what constitutes reality in order for us to deal with real-life physical problems. We would not be able to find cures to diseases if we did not agree that microorganisms cause diseases and not demons, for example. However, one thing should certainly be mentioned, that just because one has the ability to think critically or freely does not necessarily mean they will come to the best or even correct conclusions about anything. It also says nothing about their morality, general intelligence, or even any real-life positive deeds, contributions, or impacts they will have on anything. All it means is that they have the means of thinking, reflecting, reasoning, and believing freely and critically, be it for better or worse. Now, as I just mentioned, people can very easily determine the indoctrination in others, but never their own. The easiest target that comes to mind when people think of indoctrination is usually religion, and rightly so. But indoctrination can and does happen everywhere. Parents indoctrinate their children and relatives and form cults within their own homes. Pro-black groups, pro-white groups indoctrinate themselves into believing they are superior in some way, and that's why the rest of the world is out to get them or something. The military indoctrinates its soldiers. Politicians indoctrinate their supporters. Ideologues, motivational gurus, YouTubers, influencers, bloggers, and so on. Indoctrination by group is very easy and very common because it has the factor of other people reinforcing the belief. However, we've also seen that indoctrination can be worse when it comes from oneself, i.e., when people indoctrinate themselves. The biggest problem with this is that people are never aware of when they lead themselves into unrelentingly believing things without the possibility of changing their minds. And they are not aware because they are often able to justify it in their own minds, and that belief unknowingly becomes their reality, even when it can be shown to not be real or cannot be proven to be real. Now, everyone holds personal beliefs of different kinds, but not everyone holds beliefs that cannot be justified or are contrary to proven or observable reality. For example, many people, even some of the most brilliant astrophysicists of our time, believe that there is a possibility of life elsewhere besides Earth. But this does not mean they actually believe with absolute certainty that this is indeed so. The likelihood at which they believe it to be so may vary, but it will only be through some justification for them to believe it. Now, one person's justification may be another person's comedy. After all, some people believe in aliens because of the pyramids. And that's not an issue, considering that there is currently no definitive proof of the existence of extraterrestrial life anyway. The issue, however, begins when one either believes or does not believe, regardless of proof and critical thinking. That is indoctrination, and in fact self-indoctrination, accepting or denying things regardless of proof and critical thinking. though more specifically, that is the delusionary aspect of indoctrination. This definition can apply to anything and everything people are taught or believe in. Politics, cultural beliefs, religion, personal beliefs, societal beliefs, ideologies, and so on. At face value, this isn't too much of a problem, because in a world wherein people look differently, or different sexes, have different backgrounds, different classes, different upbringings, different criminal history, and so on, people will believe in different things. But this does not change facts that can be shown to be so. And when people stop caring about facts, that's when they come up with the most irrational and most destructive ideas that can have real-life consequences. Because if one, for example, does not believe that it is wrong or even harmful to mutilate people of, say, a different race, they will do so at full force, because beliefs inform actions. But unfortunately, experience has shown me that whether a person is right or wrong does not matter to as many people as I initially thought. Now, we've heard the old "facts don't care about your feelings" quote a few times, but it is also true that feelings don't necessarily care about facts very much either. By that I mean it in the sense that when emotions overpower people's rationality, facts become meaningless. We can see it, for example, when people throw their cell phones against a wall when they are angry, only to regret it later. Now, they know that it's a fact that their phone will be damaged or destroyed, even though that's not what they want. But because emotion has overpowered their judgment, they cease to think about the facts to give way for their feelings. This applies to bigger things as well. People may be upset about their economic or social situations that they may very well have brought upon themselves, and this already makes them upset. And so once they find someone to blame, they become even angrier. And if some individual or group speaks the right, or rather wrong, words, that anger overcomes their judgment, and they end up throwing their phones against a wall, or in this case, burning down their own community or city, only to regret and complain about it later. In this never-ending cycle of self-destruction, the fact remains that if they burn down their shops, they are only making their situation even worse. But remember, this is what happens when facts are disregarded. And indoctrinated people only cherry-picked facts that suit their ideology, whatever it may be, and disregard or deny all other facts that would pose a problem for the reality they've created for themselves. And that reality, be it religious, political, ideological, societal, cultural, or whatever, remains unproven or can be proven to be wrong.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
The real question is actually, would you rather be ignorantly blissful or knowledgeably unhappy? And this can be debated in many ways. It should be stated, though, that just because one is ignorant of something unpleasant doesn't mean they're necessarily happy. And likewise, just because someone is aware of something unpleasant doesn't mean they'll be unhappy. In fact, it can have the opposite effect in both cases. And also, what people consider pleasant and unpleasant varies. This leads us to the crux of the issue of what makes the indoctrination state not only possible, but embraceable to people of all walks of life from all over the world. People want to be happy in an existence surrounded by misery. Regardless of its detriment to the mind, many times people believe in whatever they believe without question or critical thoughts or the willingness to change their minds, because it becomes to them an escape from the pain, sorrow, and harsh realities of their lives. For those born into a state of indoctrination by their caregivers or teachers, it is unfortunate, as their reality will be explained by whatever teaching is given to them at that point, with or without the permission to question or think critically about what they are being taught. However, with time, all adult individuals should be able to come to conclusions of their own free accord, and by questioning and thinking for themselves before accepting or rejecting a topic. And unfortunately, this is not the case for much of the world's adult population. Many do not value or rely on what can be proven or shown to be so somehow to form conclusions on their beliefs, but rather believe whatever makes them feel good, or whatever they have just always thought to be true because they've never questioned it, in many cases since their childhood.
I am often asked by parents, how do I talk to my child about death if I don't believe in God or heaven? My answer is always the same. Fake it.
Many people do not care as much for reality as they do for their well-being and happiness, even though it is hard to imagine that people could possibly be happy while denying or ignoring certain parts of the reality. It is the case with many. To enjoy a movie, for example, One's mind should not dwell too deeply in the more senseless, illogical, unrealistic, or impossible aspects of the movie, because at that point, only one's feelings toward the movie, how it makes them laugh or cry or excited, matter. But applying this manner of reasoning to life has its consequences. People will defend and deny any wrongdoing of someone they admire or idolize because they do not want it to be true, just as people will try to impute blame or evil on someone they dislike, simply because they want that person to be seen as evil. People tend to think in dichotomous ways because it is the simplest and quickest way for them to find some sort of peace of mind on a matter, rather than taking the time to actually think and reflect on what they believe and why. People deny, interpret, and make up their own realities because ultimately this is their attempt to gain comfort, hope, gladness, peace, motivation, excitement, and of course meaning. The meaning they need to escape the realities of life they find less appealing or that take away their happiness. Things such as loss or loneliness, hardships, persecution, heartbreak, existential crises, lack of significance, and of course their own mortality. To counter these realities, people hold or form beliefs that make them feel better, but are not necessarily true or can be shown to be. And so, people would rather believe that they are the center of the universe, that they have a deep-rooted connection with the creator of everything, that their race is superior to others in some way, that they will see their loved ones again after death, that their enemies or people they find deplorable will get their comeuppance after death, that there are no pleasant people in the world and so they shouldn't even try to do good themselves, and of course, that they are here for a particular purpose other than the sexual reproduction of their parents. However that came about. People believe such things because they are in fact trying to flee the alternatives, that they are not the center of the universe, that they have no connection to any cosmic beings if such even exist, that their race holds no superiority in any way, that they will never see their loved ones again after death, or anything else for that matter, that deplorable people do sometimes get away and prosper after doing very horrible things to others, and that innocent people suffer needlessly, that not all people are bad and so one cannot simply put everyone in the same basket, and that there is no particular predestined purpose for which anyone is born. And in fact, many, if not most people in the world were unplanned. Now, many people are able to accept these realities and live pretty okay lives, but others are not able to do so. And so the people who hold these unproven beliefs pass their beliefs on to their children, and those children never question their beliefs either, and so the indoctrination cycle circulates. Although some people can and do give reasons as to why they believe such things and make a case for their beliefs such as experiences or sightings, but these remain personal beliefs until they can be objectively proven. Though it should also be said that one should not make the mistake of thinking that indoctrinated people are simply pretending to believe. Truly indoctrinated people sincerely believe what they express, no matter how outlandish it may appear to others, and sometimes the indoctrinated think that their sincerity must be an indication that their beliefs are true. One only needs to consider little girls who sincerely believe in flying unicorns to understand that this sincerity has nothing to do with veracity. One thing will, however, stand regardless of reality. People do what they wish to be happy, and if non-truths and half-truths make them happy, they will buy into it. However, one should always consider the implications it will have on the mind and the consequences it will have on others to determine if this indoctrination is a problem. Thank you to all who have followed this series, especially to those who have done so from the beginning to the end. I believe that the contents of the discussions and expositions I have laid out in a very generalized manner will stand the test of time and will be valid for decades and centuries to come. Because however mankind changes in its history, humans will always take one position or the other in the choice of critical or free thought or controlled or narrow thought. Both have their implications, whether for better or for worse, but both positions will always exist amongst people and societies in humanity. Agreeing with people on different things does not necessarily mean conforming to anything, and disagreeing does not necessarily mean rebellion. Following others does not make one a sheep if they have come to the conclusion by means of free critical thinking of their own. And refusing to follow does not necessarily make one a conspiracy theorist or a rebel, but neither does it make one special or more intelligent than others. These choices all depend on why one agrees or disagrees, complies or resists, accepts or rejects, believes or does not believe, and if one can back up their position, whatever it may be, through reason, reality, and a sound mind that seeks only the raw truth, regardless of how pleasant or unpleasant it may be, or how it may make us feel, and doing so to the best of our limited human abilities. I'm G.A. Soda. Goodbye.